Hi, I'm Jane from Nightowl Speaks, and welcome to part 2 of our series on cholesterol. And in part 1, we mentioned that yesterday's wisdom can be today's folly, and vice versa. And most of the studies from the last century recommended eating a low-fat diet. But we now know that not quite to be the best advice. So more on that in a moment. So, how do you manage your cholesterol and triglycerides? Well, in a nutshell, it's down to healthy eating, weight management, physical activity, and to keep your alcohol consumption within or under the government guidelines. And most importantly, don't smoke, because even though it is separate from and doesn't influence your body's cholesterol, it buddies up with it significantly to increase your cardiovascular risk. And smoking provides an oxidative stress to the artery wall and helps LDL, the bad guy, release cholesterol into the previously mentioned plaques. This accelerates the hardening of the arteries, known as arteriosclerosis. There are also medications to be taken into consideration, which not everyone wants to take, nor do they need to. They might, for instance, worry about side effects. And they're certainly not a panacea, but from thousands of studies, they do have proven benefits on both morbidity and mortality. And if diet alone can't keep you protected, then you might want to consider them. The medications include firstly the statins, 4 of which are currently on the market. And the fibrates are drugs which work more on lowering triglycerides and are often useful for treating diabetics. For those intolerant of statins, there's another drug that works at the intestinal wall. It is less potent but has fewer side effects. Anyway, you can discuss the variety of medications with your doctor. The impact of cholesterol and how your body manages it depends on other factors, some already mentioned, but I think they're worth mentioning again. So to start with, do you have a Buddha belly? Being centrally overweight or obese brings with it significant risks, including insulin resistance, which is the underlying problem in type 2 diabetes, and we'll talk about insulin resistance in a separate video. Obesity can bring about metabolic syndrome or even frank diabetes. And these conditions amplify the cardiovascular impact of high cholesterol and especially triglycerides. So aim for a healthy weight. A wise man now lost to history said that you are what you eat, and he was right. You should aim to keep your overall fat intake between 30 and 50 grams a day, depending on your calorie requirements. And remember that not all fats are equal. Make your saturated fats a low percentage of your overall fat intake. And remember that saturated fats raise your LDL, and they're the bad guys, more than anything else in your diet. So, what do? Well, avoid fatty meats, especially processed meats like bacon and salami, which are also carcinogenic, by the way. And try and avoid deep-fried and processed foods like cakes and biscuits and pastries. And when you do eat processed foods, you are often throwing in lots of sugar, which makes them a kind of double jeopardy. They are often calorie-dense and very seductive to the taste buds, but remember, they're easier to eat than to get rid of from the hips and stomach later. A momentary pleasure in the mouth, 4 hours in the stomach, and a lifetime on the hips. Isn't that what we grew up with? And remember also that you can control what goes into your meals at home, whereas fast food, which is often driven by profit, will sometimes contain cheap and harmful ingredients. If you're actively trying to lower your cholesterol, you should avoid cholesterol-containing foods where possible, because we already make cholesterol in the body for the vital role that it plays. Cholesterol can be found in animal-derived products such as liver and other organ meats, prawns and egg yolks. Limit your intake of full-fat, non-soured and unfermented dairy products, notably ice cream, cream and butter. And the low-fat alternatives, such as low-fat yogurt, aren't necessarily a healthier choice because they can contain fillers and extra sugar, so do read the labels. Now, the denatured dairy products, such as cheese and yogurt, appear to be relatively heart neutral. And what do I mean by that? Well, it basically means that they're not considered a risk when it comes to heart health. Now, I hope this hasn't confused you too much. So whilst you probably can safely consume a little cheese, natural yogurt and unsweetened milk, you really should avoid another bad guy, namely trans fats, as these can raise cholesterol levels. They are found in some processed foods such as biscuits, cakes, frozen pizza, French fries, donuts and some margarines, especially if they have been cooked at high temperatures using cheap oils. Now, some manufacturers have reduced trans fats in their products, but do check the labels, as these foods, as previously mentioned, contain saturated fats, salt, and high levels of sugar. So, what the heck do I eat? Well, try and go for healthier monosaturated fats from plant-based sources, such as nuts, avocados, olive oil, canola oil, safflower oil, peanut oil, and macadamias. And ensure that you get plenty of soluble fibre. This will not only lower your risk of bowel cancer, diverticular disease and constipation, but will help prevent your intestinal tract from absorbing cholesterol. So, try to eat whole grain cereals such as oatmeal and oat bran and whole grain breads, fibrous fruits such as apples, bananas, oranges, pears and prunes, and legumes such as kidney beans, lentils, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, lima, and baked beans. And whilst you're at it, try and go for more fruits and vegetables. A diet rich in fruits and vegetables can increase important cholesterol-lowering compounds in your body. These molecules are called plant sterols or stanols, and they work like soluble fibre. Try and eat foods that are high in omega-3 essential fatty acids. Now, these acids won't lower your LDL, the bad guys, but they may help to raise the protective HDL levels, the good guys. They may also protect your heart from blood clots and inflammation and therefore reduce your heart attack risk. Now, they cannot be made by your body and therefore must be obtained from the diet. Fish that are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids include salmon, tuna, sardine, herring and mackerel. And to avoid mercury, go for locally caught fish twice a week and stay away from fish from more polluted parts of the globe. Alternatively, for vegetarians and vegans, you can source algae supplementation, which is a good source of DHA and EPA. It's more environmentally friendly too. Now, we know that it's the balance of omega-3 versus 6 and 9, which is very important, but an optimal ratio has never really been clearly defined. Plant sources of omega-3s, which are ALAs, are found in walnuts, flax seeds, hemp and chia seeds, seaweed, Brussels sprouts, kidney beans and tofu. They must be converted in the body into DHA, which is found readily in fish, and also EPA, which is also found in fish. In the absence of fish, it's important for people on a plant-based diet to include omega-3 containing foods. And although it is more work for the body, ALAs obtained from plant-based sources are quite sufficient. And I just want to add that omega-3s are not only excellent for heart health, but for the health of your brain as well. So basically what we've been advising is really the Mediterranean diet, And overall, it tends to be very good because it doesn't rely on processed foods, but relies more on oils and not saturated fats, and includes fish, apart from fish that's covered in batter, of course. The Mediterranean diet is abundant in fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. And a handful of nuts a day alone can reduce the risk of heart disease. Avocados are also a superfood with respect to heart health, alongside chia and hemp seeds. Now, some people don't like avocados on their own, so you can make a guacamole or spread it into a sandwich instead of using butter or margarine. And so, as a general principle, the more you can move away from the animal kingdom into the plant kingdom, the better when it comes to diet. Well, I don't know about this, but do remember to exercise. It's so important to keep moving. Exercise helps to burn fat and reduce weight, and it's also good for mood, but we'll talk about that some other time. And remember that exercise raises HDL, the good guy, and lowers LDL, the bad guy. And if it's cardio in nature and done regularly, it can raise HDL by as much as 6%. And every bit helps. So in conclusion then, take your time at the grocery store. Choose wisely and take note of the ingredients on the packet. Remember that good eating begins at the shopping trolley. Do you want it? Do you need it? And is it good for you? I mean, obviously you have to have the odd treat here and there. But if the answer is no, it's not good for me, then you might want to leave it behind sometimes and save yourself some money and your health in the process. And remember that health is like money in the bank. The greater the investment, the greater the return. Please tune in again to episode 3 when we will look at normal versus abnormal cholesterol levels. And we will interpret what do those numbers actually mean. And so, I'm Jane from Night Owl Speaks, and I'll be seeing you very soon.